Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra Mani Padma Jivala Kavartaya.
You stand and join in chanting of the Blessed. So we first take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha in Sino-Korean, out of respect to our tradition, which comes from the mountain monasteries of Korea. And then we will do it in English. So please throw your voice in as best you can. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teaching.
I will penetrate the teachings.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
I go for refuge to the Sangha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
And transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return now to your mats and cushions for another shorter period of meditation. As we begin this period of meditation, please pay attention to your spine. We find that as a body practice, the legs are important, but even more important to our practice is our spine. So now just take a slow, deep breath. Becoming aware of the spinal column as it extends from your sitting bones all the way up to your neck. When we are in alignment, our spine is supported by gravity. So think of this as all of your vertebrae, you can think of them as individual joints, stacked one on top of the other. Sitting in alignment, supported by gravity, also allowing movement. The spine is not still. If it is, it creates tension in our practice. So just be aware of the natural movement of the spine and how it supports your practice. Having done this awareness, please focus on the breath and continue with your practice, whatever it might be. Counting of the breath, working with the wadu, or some other form of practice. So we'll just enjoy a little extra time this morning, maybe about 10 minutes with our meditation practice. Just follow along as we do some stretching. Very interesting pressure points along the ridge of the skull. Some of these are associated with breathing. So pay attention as you feel the bones on the top of your skull, all the way down to those occipital bones. And working with the ears, pulling the earlobes, stimulation. Placing your knuckle underneath your nose and pushing up a little. Stretching the lower back and working with the spine for these next several stretches. Good stretch, breathing in, breathing out. Stretching upward. And then as we fold, place your hands far in front of you. Stretching upward. Folding to the left. And the right. Be aware of how all these little movements are massaging the spine, clasping the hands behind your back, knees forward. And as we sit up, we do a spinal twist. First to the left, looking over your shoulder. And then to the right. And now some big circles of our upper body. Reversing direction. Grasping your left side, lean toward the right. And the left. And we work with the breath, so bringing the arms wide. Twisting to the left. The right. Reaching high, high, high. Allow the shoulders to drop and engage in some abdominal breathing. have a work with microphone and glasses here. So good morning, everyone. I am so grateful that you are here, that you came at the end of the holiday weekend and also came to the snow. And the snow is quite beautiful and refreshing. And so also grateful to have that with us. It is winter, officially winter. And in the mountain monasteries of Korea, that means that they are on a 3-month retreat working on their meditation practice. It's also a time for us as laypersons to take a pause when we can and to work on our practice, not only sitting meditation, but other things as well. So today, I just wanted to do a little check-in with folks, see how your practice is going, and offer 3 suggestions as to things that you might do to make it a little bit more lively. So the first suggestion is working with your meditation practice. Yesterday we had a 1-day retreat. And so it's quite wonderful if you can come and sit with others for an extended period of time to do this, to support each other in the practice and to learn new things. During the retreat, we were working with some readings from this book. Don't know if you can see it online, but it is called Breathing Through the Whole Body by Will Johnson. So if you are looking for maybe a little innovative ways of working with your practice, I would suggest this is a resource. And also suggest coming to one of our retreats if you can. I'm curious, how many of you have a home practice that you're able to do on a regular basis? Okay, a fair number of you, that's excellent. So keep up the good work on that. If you set aside a little time every day, it allows you to explore much more deeply. So that's number 1. Finding time for retreat, extra time for meditation practice. So number 2 is maybe doing a little extra study or working with scriptures. So we've not read our Dharmapada reading today. Let's do that now. So this reading that we're doing this week is from the chapter called The True Master. And there is a reason I brought these glasses. Excuse me just a second. The master endures insults and ill treatment without reacting, for their spirit is an army. They are never angry. They keep their promises. They never stray. They are determined. This body is my last, they say. Like water on the leaf of a lotus flower or a mustard seed on the point of a needle, they do not cling. For they have reached the end of sorrow and have laid down their burden. So we have a right livelihood guideline that says discover wisdom. And the way we do that is number 1, cultivate don't know mind. That could be things like our sitting meditation practice. Number 2, find connections between Buddhist teachings and your life. So that is the purpose of engaging with scriptures. every week at the temple, we do one Dhammapada reading for the whole week. And at breakfast, we have a discussion about it. What does that mean for our everyday life? So this particular one, the master endures insults and ill treatment without reacting, for their spirit is an army. So reflecting on those words, what comes to mind for you in your everyday life? So I challenge you to think about that. A second way of working with scriptures is to kind of an embodiment practice. And so you can copy the scriptures, just very carefully writing and finding in this way that you absorb it differently. When students work with the Diamond Sutra, one of our more challenging scriptures, they chant it really, really fast. So fast they can't even comprehend the words. That's another way of working with scriptures. You absorb it differently. And of course, there is a practice of memorization. When you memorize something, it becomes part of you, and it can arise at appropriate moments. So, for example, a moment ago, I was talking about this right livelihood guideline of discover wisdom. That's something I've memorized, the 6 right livelihood guidelines, and say on a regular basis. So it's accessible to me when I want to work with it. The temple has study groups. From time to time, Shin Ming, is this your last week of class? So there's been a group looking at the Shin Ming, a lovely Chinese scripture, and exploring what that means in their lives. And every week for several years now, on Thursday mornings, it's on Wednesday mornings now, we have a study group on the way of the Bodhisattva. And it's interesting, this group has been meeting for a long time, and we go through like one verse a week, so it takes about a year to get through it once. And then at the end of that year, we say, well, this is good, shall we move on to something else? And we always come back to, no, we want to read it again and reflect on it again, because we gain something new each time that we do that. So that's number 2. 1 is enriching your meditation body practice. Number 2, engaging with scriptures. Number 3 is spiritual or meditative inquiry. And so on Wednesday evenings, we have a little study group, and we sit together, and then we recite the song of meditation, and we take one line each week to consider. And so the line that we were considering this week was, arise from meditation with live wadi and meditation light. So this is about that spiritual or meditative inquiry. So let me give you an example. What is this wadu thing? And actually it's a type of koan. And maybe you've heard of koans in Japanese traditions or other traditions. So here is an example for you. We have one of our former members, Matt Needle, composed a bunch of songs for us. And his songs, generally we sing with kids, but all of us can benefit from them because they help us experience things like koans and water. So here's one for you. Does a dog have Buddha nature? Buddha nature, Buddha nature. Does a dog have Buddha nature. Whoa, 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 whoa. And every Buddha's birthday is always every day. Buddha's birthday is always every day. Have any of you heard that one, that song? Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. Okay, so this thing, does a dog have Buddha's nature, is a koan. And I'm curious, how many of you have dogs? Raise your hands. What would you say is the answer to this question? Does a dog have Buddha nature? Just shout it out. I want to hear it.
I would say they do, but I don't remember what the multiple teacher said. I think the first time he was asked, he said no.
Mhm.
And the second time he was asked, he said yes. So I'm still confused.
All right. Who else? Who else would have an answer to this koan? Does a dog have Buddha nature? Other dog lovers, what do you think, Poseidon?
No.
No. Okay. So we have a yes, a no, and then, we have this sort of switching sides kind of thing. So the Zen master who posed this koan was Chow Chow. And as Michael said, the first time he was asked that question, he said no. And in Chinese, it came out as mu. Mu was the answer to the question. And then he was asked 2 more times. The second time he was asked, it wasn't about a dog, it was about an oak tree. Does an oak tree have Buddha nature? The answer was yes. And later on, another student said, does a dog have Buddha nature? And the answer was yes. So what does this mean? This koan arose as part of a debate that was going on about what is Buddha nature? What is a sentient being? What does it mean to be sentient? Perhaps the dog does not. The answer to the koan is no. The dog does not have Buddha nature. If you look at it from the viewpoint of the dog does not realize it has Buddha nature and therefore cannot appreciate it, that might be one reason for arriving at the answer of no. Another reason that Zen master may have said it is he just thought it was a dumb question. No, I'm not going to answer such a stupid question. So as we look at these koans, the purpose is to challenge us to go beyond our traditional intellectual thinking. I was at a retreat once, and we were working with our koans, and one person who was working with this koan was crawling around on the floor, barking. That's another way to approach it. So if you want to know if a dog has Buddha nature, why don't you try to become a dog and see if that is true or not. So this can get to be kind of a fun and lively practice. So how then does this come to Wadu? Wadu was developed in China by a Chinese Zen master called Tao Wei. And he knew that there's like 1,700 koans out there, and working with the full version of each koan was cumbersome. So the Wadu is the essence of the koan. It boils it down to one word or one phrase. So the Wadu associated with does a dog have Buddha nature is mu. And so when we are working with our meditation practice or going about our day, if we can just keep this head of speech, this condensed form of the wadu in our mind, it makes it more alive for us as we go about the day. So that's what a wadu is. There is another koan / wadu that's very important in our tradition, and it is, what is it? So the phrase, what is it, refers to the koan. It is not mine. It is not Buddha. It is not space. It is not things. So what is it? And as I worked with my teacher in interviews, those of you who do not have interviews, this is a one-on-one encounter with a teacher, helping you with your meditation practice. And occasionally our teacher will pose a version of this wadu or help me work with it. So one version is, what is it that keeps you going on like this? What is it that keeps you sitting in meditation practice? What is it that keeps you engaged with that work practice that we're doing when you're sleeping? What is it? What is it? What is it? And so as you can see, it sort of creates a couple things, maybe an aliveness, and also creates some doubt. Like, I don't know what the heck the answer to this question is. Keeps coming up. And I don't know. So that forces me into, I cannot come up with a logical answer. I have to experience it in some different way. So I want to give you some other examples of these koans. And then more wadus and koans. And then let's talk a little bit about how this form of spiritual inquiry can be part of our lives, how we can use it. So here's one. What is it that sees? What is it that hears? What is it that smells? So ask yourself that question. What is your answer? What is it? I'm curious if someone would.
First thing that came to mind was the newspaper. I don't know why, because that old saying, red all over.
Oh my God.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
That sounds like a newspaper.
Yeah, newspaper.
All right, so say it again. What is black and white and red all over the
What is
center?
black and white and red all over?
All right.
That's just, I know it's not even, but that was the first thing that popped into my head.
Move!
Yo!
All right.
Move too.
I'm going to get the Dharma combat going here. And here's another one that I like. Where do thoughts come from? Where do they go? So when I am all tangled up in my stories, maybe I'm sitting still trying to meditate, and I just have these stories playing again and again in my head. If I go to that question, where do these thoughts come from? Where do they go? I drop into a different kind of space. And it helps me connect with my body at that point a lot more, because then I'm seeking wisdom. Well, I'm looking in my body. Where in my body do those thoughts come from? Where do they go? And maybe it's not a structure within my body, or maybe it's some kind of function, this lively interaction that is going on all of the time. Here's another one. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Can somebody give me a non-verbal response? Another one. All right. So it's helpful to become embodied with these things if we can. So in our everyday life, if we're working with questions and generating these questions, one guideline that we can use is which questions bring about peace, energy, and openness and curiosity? Which questions, when we ponder them, spin us into intellectualization? So for me, if I try to ask myself the question, what is the meaning of life? Where will I be in 5 years? I just spin into this place of intellectualization, and that does not give me peace or calmness or happiness or any of that. Whereas if I allow myself to ask some of these other questions, what is it that keeps me going on like this? I find that I go to a place of presence and I'm able to interact with the world in a different way. Okay, so this meditative inquiry, some benefits, I just made a little list of them for you to consider. So we engage in this type of inquiry to gain vibrancy, engagement with freedom, to cultivate our curiosity, to generate don't know mind, to generate doubt. So if I keep asking myself things like, is that so? Are you really sure? This type of doubt I find helpful because it allows me to think differently rather than a skeptical kind of doubt that leads me to, you dummy, are you really sure? That's not what I'm after. Or rather, are you sure that the answer that you've come up with is the right one? So it gets back to you. What does that mean? So discovering wisdom, cultivating equanimity might be another benefit of this spiritual inquiry.
No.
Yeah.
I use the volume differently, maybe not. I find when I'm, for example, if I'm on breath, and I'm distracted, or a feeling wells up, that's when I say, what is it? And that sort of slaps me in the face and brings me back to my practice. I don't usually, sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll say, well, that's just anger.
Mm.
But usually there's not a real answer. It's more about bringing me back to the practice.
Right, not necessarily a real answer. So the question or the comment, maybe I should give you this microphone. But Wadu can be used when we're I think, stuck, sort of in a state of perplexity. And then you ask that question, what is it? And sometimes an answer comes like, well, that's anger, something like that. But oftentimes just asking the question allows us to stop, reset, enter a different space. Is that a synopsis of what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't see it as I don't really see it as an intellectual exercise.
It's not an intellectual exercise, it's
Right.
a comment. And I think that you hit it on the head, it's not intended to be an intellectual exercise. Yeah. Other comments or questions about this Wadu practice or spiritual inquiry? How many of you use this as part of your meditation? Okay. So some of us do, particularly those who are seminary students, it's sort of forced upon us at some point. Because we start working with our meditation practice by counting the breath, maybe in English or maybe in Korean. And then at some point we're assigned a wadu kind of practice. So I offer the microphone to the Dharma students for a moment. I thought, no, I'm not answering.
What's the question?
The question is, what is the benefit of this wadu practice? What has been your experience?
I guess for me, because I'm a word person, and it's very easy for me to be fixated on words and thoughts, to have a different relationship to language through that questioning practice, I try to experience it more as a physical sensation. What does it feel like to have a sense of questioning or energy around the question, rather than thinking about what the words mean or what the answer to the question is. But that's tricky because I want to sometimes think about it.
I hang a microphone in my book, but he said he does this.
I think for me, it kind of, like there's no yes, no right, wrong answer. It's like somebody saying moo to me. But it kind of forces me to look at it from perspectives maybe that I'm not accustomed to looking to, because the answer might be, the only way I can find it is to look from a different direction that I'm not accustomed to.
Can you get that microphone over to this side of the room? I think we have two responders.
So I agree with what both of you said, and I can relate to both of those things. I was gonna add on to what Jago said about language. So for me, I grew up with my dad being a poet, and he pointed out to us that poetry could take us to this sort of wadu space, especially abstract verses, or just single sentences that are somewhat confusing can be like a key to open up the mind to a bigger perspective. So we would memorize lines and sort of like meditate on them. And I find that it's kind of like, I think everyone can relate to this. If you write the same word over and over and over and over, and suddenly you think it's spelled wrong, that's not what it looks like. And you can't read it anymore, and you can't see what it symbolizes. You've kind of dissociated because you've done it too much. It's kind of like that. Once I kind of use some of the koans to get to a place where everything is abstracted in the mind, and beyond that, you sort of go beyond language and beyond logic. And it's like a key opening a door.
Any other comments?
I've got this one that came from a meditation retreat that I'm not able to recite totally effectively, but essentially it's about a mosquito that bites an iron bowl, and apparently it accomplishes its goal. And I still have not been able to figure out how that happens. But it kind of makes you think, maybe there's something beyond just logic that I'm missing here. And maybe that's sort of a wake-up call for people to stop trying to analyze everything. To me, it kind of gets to like the Buddha's Four Noble Truths about suffering. the truth of suffering, arising of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to that. You don't really necessarily have to do that much to get to the end of suffering. You just realize it's going to go away anyway. So what's the point?
So Simone brings up a good point. The Buddha asked a very deep question, what is suffering? And look at where it led to all these wonderful practices that we have. So I would invite you this winter season to engage in your practice in some of the ways that we've talked about today. So consider doing a little extra sitting or coming to a retreat, engaging with scriptures, joining study groups, and maybe exploring this Wading practice. So Haji Sunam has started offering interviews again on Sunday mornings, early Sunday morning at 6 a.m. So if you wanted to show up then, you might get this individual one-on-one work with her. She might engage you in some body practice, like working with the spine thing that we did, or she might take you to this place of body practice. So please continue to come around and engage as deeply as you can.
Since I missed the last one, for the interviews, do I have to schedule anything or do I just show up
You just show up
at 6 a.m.?
6 a.m.
Here?
here in this very room.
I was here at 6 this morning, she wasn't here.
Well, actually, that would have been true because she's in Illinois today. Yeah. It's kind of obvious because she's not sitting
Yeah,
right.
that's kind of how I knew. I figured she was visiting the kids.
Okay, let's say together the 4 great vows and then we'll have some announcements. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Oh, okay. First off, Hassan might have something to share to the group.
Should I really start? I should start.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So a lot of people know that I paint, but I'm gonna open up my studio for everyone to come in for the first time since COVID. Masks are recommended. It's a smallish space, but it's at the Riverside Art Center in Ypsilanti, and it's gonna be next Saturday. So this is the last time I can announce it to y'all. But everyone is welcome and invited. And there's going to be 5 painters, and we all have studios that we paint there, but it's been very isolated. So this will be the first time the public has been invited to come in and see where we work and how we do it. And my work is very much a part of my practice. So some of the things you would see in my studio would be just what Maul mentioned. Hand copying the Dhammapada is one of my practices, and I paint passages of Buddhist scripture as well as other things. So this is, I'm going to leave a flyer by the sign-up sheets in the lobby, so if you want to take a picture with your phone or jot down the info, it'll be out in the lobby.
Great. Thank you so much, Vesna. Looks like maybe your art on there already.
That's my art, yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. We also have a couple of things coming up at the temple. We got a meditation course, an all-day one, Saturday. from 9 to 5. It's kind of like a meditation retreat, but it's also instruction, learning postures and breathing techniques and lots more. And it's 160 for non-members, 120 for members, but I believe there's also a sliding scale, so anyone can show up. And we've also got yoga, and that's on Tuesday nights. I go to that. Counseling goes to that. Many more people go to that Tuesdays here in this room at 6:30 till 8 or so.
So, is that still going on?
It wasn't last week, but it's coming up this week too, right? So that's a good question because it's getting towards the end of the year. You might want to pick up after the break. I think it restarts maybe in February. So you could be thinking of that too in the new year for resolutions. Let's see. Today we've got Refuge Recovery. Is that the new name?
Dharma.
It's Recovery Dharma. Okay, yeah. It's on the flyer backwards, so we'll have to fix that. Dharma Recovery, right?
Recovery Dharma.
Recovery
RD.
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 Now it's got 3 forms. And that's at noon today in the basement below us here. So there's the door to the stairs. And I was wondering, is practice period still going on? So you already know who you
The
are.
last meeting, we'll meet in the conference room as usual.
Conference room?
Conference room in the Sangha.
Next door there, in the new building. And thank you all for being here and for this time and any other time you can devote to the temple or money. We have a fishbowl out here. Time to time, that's appreciated. And thanks, yeah, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I'm glad you all came.
So sweet.
So, yeah, let's all stand and we'll do 3 formal vows together. Breathing, feeling each other's presence. Morning, Jaga.
I think it's the inner lines.
Morning, Mom.